I'm Lance Lambert. Thanks for tuning in to the Vintage Vehicle Show. We are in Costa Mesa, California at the Crevier Classic Car Company. This is a fantastic collection of beautiful cars. A little bit eclectic. There's hot rods, there's customs, there's traditional, big money cars. There's kind of your average everyday Joe car. A really nice collection here. And we are blessed today. We have Jim Clark. Jim, come on out here. Jim, you are the manager of the collection here, right?
Yes, Lance.
So you have the final word on what happens here?
Well, I would hope so. I'm not sure of that sometimes. There's several of us that put our love and passion into this building.
The love and passion is real obvious. This is a lot of pride, a lot of pride in this room.
We think it shows.
How did this all come about?
Well, it was the brainchild of our owner, Donnie Crevier, who is a local BMW dealer. It all kind of started with a 1931 Model A panel truck. That truck's present here right now. That's what bit Donnie and got him collecting cars. And as his collection grew to maybe 3 or 4, he kind of realized that he had a problem as to a place to keep them.
Good problem.
Realized a real good problem to have, isn't it? But he realized that he wasn't alone, that there were so many others that would share this problem of storage. And with real estate being precious in this part of Southern California, this was just a natural thing to evolve.
I know you have events here, you have lounge areas, club areas.
This is a private club where our members are entitled to full reign, full use of the building. As you've seen, it's quite a special building.
Okay. Well, maybe at the end of the shoot today we can put our feet up and have a little refreshment.
Hey, that sounds like a good idea.
Right, good. Well, let's take a look at some of the cars here.
Okay.
Jim, you have a 54 Buick Skylark here. I think that 54 to 57 Buicks are right up there with the best looking cars that came out of the 50s. Gorgeous car. How did this end up in your collection?
No, we're very fortunate to have it, Lance. For one, I couldn't agree with you more. When you look at all the automotive lines throughout the 50s, certainly we're looking at a significant piece of art, a significant piece of history. The styling on this car speaks for itself. If you don't love this, boy, you just don't love cars, huh?
The distinctive wheel wells on this, of course the tack-on chrome fin in the back, a lot of styling cues that were very unusual at the time. And I know this isn't a factory experimental. They actually put these on the market. They were available, but not very many of them. Who bought these cars?
Not very many of them, Lance. As a matter of fact, only 863 were built and produced in 1954. And the people that bought these cars certainly were people wanting to make a statement. If I recall, they sold somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,500, which had to be substantial amount of money in 1954.
Yeah, that's about 2.5 or 3 Chevrolets.
Wouldn't you think so?
Yeah.
However, when you drive this wonderful car, its value really speaks for itself. Even today, the drive of this car is so refined, so smooth, such a pleasure.
The wheel wells, how did, I wonder what made him think that was going to work, and in fact did.
Do you know that we're going to have to ask somebody the answer to that question, Lance, because it's always baffled me. We had a red one in here, and as you notice on this particular car, the wheel wells on black were all red. I haven't seen them any other color combination.
And then the fin, they took what had been squared off on these and took a big risk and sliced the body down on it and tacked on. It's like I could just see them thinking, man, we're either doing something really smart here or we're making a big mistake with this styling cue.
Boy, for my taste, don't you think they did something really smart? To me, that part of the car just fascinates me. It's just such an interesting rear end on this car, like none other in the 50s.
I have a real soft spot for orphan cars, Hudsons, Packards, Studebakers, whatever. This, I don't think you can get much better of an orphan car than a 1942 Hudson Woody. This is amazing. Where did this come from and how many of these are out there?
Well, first of all, there really aren't many out there, Lance. As we've done our homework on this, there were only 11 produced in 1942 before the government stepped in and directed Hudson's efforts towards the war. Out of those 11 that were built, there are only 4 that are remaining. Of the 4 that are remaining, there's only 2 that are restored. Now the other one sits way back in Indiana in the Hudson Museum, and we're fortunate enough to house this special piece of history. Like I say, when they only made 11 of you, you really have something special in the garage today.
A 42 anything is pretty amazing, but to have something this fantastic as the top of the heap. Woodies, depot hacks, whatever you want to call them, they were, well, the story is that they designed these things to travel from the fancy resort to the train to pick up the young, wealthy couple that was going to spend the weekend in that particular resort. That's what these were for. Is that really the case, or was it a second car for the certain clientele to have to run their errands in? Why Woodies?
Well, Lance, I think that they served a broad spectrum of utility purposes. I mean, everything from delivery to hauling the large family to church on Sunday. If you look at this particular car, I mean, it's quite reminiscent of what could have been the predecessor to the Suburban. Mm-hmm. If you look at the seating, they really resemble the seating found in a school bus, even used today. Of course, with this Super 6, as you know, it's powered by a L-head 6-cylinder engine, only capable of 102 horsepower. And although this is a 3-speed with overdrive, she really wasn't the fastest car on the planet. So I would have to say that, you know, from what we've noticed, boy, the Woody Wagon was used for such a multitude of purposes. Of course, one of those becoming real popular in the 50s and 60s to haul surfboards around Southern California.
You're the guy that's turning the wrench and making these things run properly?
Oh yeah, I tell you, every single one of these have their own finicky little ways, you know, and I got to be able to adjust them and get them running in at a moment's notice, you know. It can be any time here that any one of our clients, Mr. Crevier himself, needs his car for any given weekend, and a moment's notice, I got to make sure these cars are charged up, gassed up, and running, you know, all day, every day, 24 hours a day.
Do you come in here and have you take the clipboard down and go, okay, I got to do the 57 Chev and I got to do the whatever?
Absolutely. Every single car has their own personal notebook here, okay, so I keep track of how long they've been running, how much gas are in them, okay, oil change intervals and stuff like that too, because we do maintenance and keep every single car here, as well as our own clients as well.
Jim, I want to know something about Robert. He comes in here and works on these cars, but what if it's a nice Southern California sunny day and he needs to take each one out after he's tuned them up to make sure they're running properly? Does he sometimes disappear for maybe a half a day because he's got to make sure that car runs really well?
Well, Lance, you've got a good read on him. It's a tough job, but somebody has to do it.
Yeah, well, he looks like you're doing a good job.
Thank you. I do my best.
Dodges were sensible cars, sensible with a capital S, for a long time, up until 54, and then in 55 something happened. They started becoming hot cars, and then in 56 we have something like this. What are we looking at here?
We're looking at our 1956 Dodge Golden Lancer, one of 50 produced, and this is the only one with a 315 cubic inch Hemi engine in it. Dual quads, 295 horsepower, and it drives very, very well.
So this is the only one with that combination?
Yes, sir. This is the only one we have documented with the actual Hemi inside of it right now.
This is so different than what Dodge had been doing in previous years. Of course, 55, they started stepping up to the performance plate. But who are they going after? What market were they going after with this car?
NASCAR. That's what they're going after, honestly.
What evolved into NASCAR.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
This was definitely something marketed for the hot rod enthusiasts. As Robert explained, the dual quad Hemi in this car, this being the only one manufactured of 50 in 1956 with that dual quad Hemi. We feel that in part this was Dodge's way of wanting to express their interest in what, like we say, later evolved into NASCAR as we know it today.
Of course, Chevrolet in 55 and 56, they started really becoming performance cars, so Dodge didn't want to get left behind.
Absolutely.
Such a gorgeous car, a high-performance car. What's it like to drive?
Absolute pleasurable experience. This is a driving experience that is remarkable given the day, 1956. I recently had the pleasure to drive this car down to San Juan Capistrano Car Show, about 20 miles away, Lance. And I was 10 miles down the freeway when I couldn't contain myself. I had to pick up my cell phone, although it's a no-no, and call Robert here and tell him, Robert, you would not believe how good this car flies at 70 miles an hour.
So we're talking about the 56 Dodge over there and what a hot rod it was, and these really sexy, svelte foreign cars started showing up all over the place. This 56 Jaguar is an excellent example of something like that. Can you tell me a little bit about this car?
Well, I sure can, Lance. I can tell you that, like you, I agree when you describe a car like this as being sexy and svelte. However, I may defer to my knowledgeable associate, Klaus Kindor, to shed a little more light on this particular car.
Okay, well, Klaus, come on in here. With a name like Klaus, he has to know about foreign cars. How you doing?
Lance, how are you? Pleasure meeting you.
Good. Thanks for
Glad you're
coming
here
in
today.
here. So tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the transition from these being, maybe by the big three thought, oh, those Jags and those Mercedes-Benz and all, nobody really wants those cars. They won't have any effect on our market. And then stuff like this starts driving up and down the street, especially here in Southern California, and everybody's going, wait a minute, this is not a 56 Ford. This is something really special here.
Right. And they were. And they were for the time. Jaguar, pretty much MG, really started the sports car craze here, particularly in Southern California. And of course, Jaguar brought some illustrious cars in, like the 140. The 140 was designated the XK 140 because of its 140 mile an hour top end speed.
Okay.
It was the newer car after the 120, of course, that Jaguar had built. It was a little bit longer. They moved the engine a little bit more further forward, so we get a little more occupancy or occupant space in the car. They moved the firewall forward, but unfortunately at the same time, they also didn't find a place to put the battery, which is now located on the lower right frame rail behind the rear fender, which makes it almost impossible to replace.
So it's only a $500 fix to put a new battery in. Probably.
Exactly right. Disassemble the car, replace the battery. Yeah.
Put the car back together. Criticism from foreign shores are that we crazy Americans are so caught up in how fast our car can get from this point to that point, a quarter mile away. And they think the real proof of a car's performance is how quickly it goes up and down hills, around corners, and all that. So something like this, probably you're not doing 125 and a quarter mile, but you put this up against any standard 1956 American automobile, and this is going to go around those corners a whole lot better.
Certainly. It was a lighter car. It was with about the same power that we were getting from our big V8s out of a 6-cylinder, out of a straight 6. It was lighter, it handled better, it was more nimble. So in the twisty bits, which is pretty much European driving, if we compare Formula One versus NASCAR, not good, bad, just different. That's really what the difference was between the cars.
They must have, the foreign shores, they must have looked at 56 Corvettes compared to a 56 Jag and go, what are those Americans thinking, you know?
We tried.
Yeah, we did try. We got it right finally. But
Absolutely we
were
did.
Still, about 56,
Absolutely we did.
56, they were still trying.
You bet.
1953 Mercedes-Benz Cabriolet. Now this is a car that you don't see very often, and you having a German background must have an opinion on this particular car.
I've always been fond of these cars, Lance. They're pretty spectacular cars. They were built between the years of 1951 and 1957, maybe even into the 58s. They were also commonly referred to as Adenauers. At the time, Konrad Adenauer was the Chancellor of Germany and actually had 6 of these automobiles at his disposal during that time.
How many, I know they made Adenauer sedans, how many total Adenauers did they make?
I want to say right around 12,000 cars.
Okay, so not a huge number of them.
No, over an 8-year period.
The performance, what kind of motors going on in these?
This was a carbureted version. This is a 300S. The 300 was the most opulent and expensive automobile at the time for Mercedes-Benz, and there was also an SC version, which had an Einspritzmotor, which was an injected engine that actually came from the 300 SO Roadster and Gullwing.
It had a what in it?
Einspritzmotor.
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 Oh, yeah. What he said.
Exactly.
Now this, we're looking at the Jag. That's an expensive car. I would think that the person driving this car would drive by the person driving the Jag and maybe give him a little sniff. You know?
Easily.
Yeah.
In fact, Clark Gable did drive a 300 SC Roadster. If this were an SC version, there were, I believe, 47 cabriolets built and 53 Roadster versions of this car built, which makes them extraordinarily rare.
If you could give me in one sentence your feeling about this car, what would it be?
Ausgezeichnet.
Really exciting?
Outstanding.
I was close. That's not bad.
Right on the money.
Yeah.
Right on the money.
So we're back dealing with U.S. cars. We have a 1936 Packard LeBaron body. First of all, what's the whole LeBaron thing about?
Well, LeBaron was a coach builder, similar to what Dietrich was, or what Waterhouse was, or what Fleetwood was. In these days, you ordered an automobile from a manufacturer, whether it be Packard or Duesenberg or Lincoln, and you ordered basically a chassis and an engine, and then had the coach work done to your specifications, rather like a suit today.
And the builders that did that back then, was there a pecking order, like LeBaron was the best and somebody else was second best, or who were the leaders back then?
I think everybody thought they were the best at it, and there were some that were extraordinarily good at it.
This used to belong to Ed Herman, I understand?
Ed Herman owned this car, yes. This is the only Victoria convertible ever put on a Packard 120 chassis.
We've had Ed on the show, and real knowledgeable guy. Of course, everybody knows that, so it's pretty exciting to have his car here. 1936 performance standards, where did this come in? How did this fare against the competition back then?
I think at the time it was a great performing car. You know, obviously we compare it to today's automobiles, it's a completely different story. But the car runs and drives extraordinarily well. I have to admit I wasn't much of an American car fan until I had an opportunity to drive a Packard.
Everybody in the car world remembers Ask the Man That Drives one.
What
a successful advertising campaign that was.
We think that your question about performance could be best answered, Lance, if we put you behind the wheel here today.
Well, let me give that some thought. Do I want to drive Ed Herman's 1936 Packard? I'll take you up on that. Jim, thank you very much for having us here as your guest at the Crevier Classic Car Company. Wonderful facility, great cars. If somebody wants to find out more about it, how can they go about doing that?
Well, Lance, probably the best way would be to look us up on the internet at crevierclassiccars.com. Of course, we are here 7 days a week, and we welcome visitors to come and enjoy the beautiful cars and the beautiful facility that we have here.
Well, we've certainly enjoyed both, so now I'm going to enjoy this car that you were wise enough to allow me to drive.
Oh boy, you bet we'll enjoy it.
Okay, all right, see you, maybe next Thursday or so.
Yes, sir.
All right, see you, Jim.